Hello, and welcome back to the Simplifiers podcast, where we take topics in work and in life and simplify them. And friends, I love today's topic. And I know I'm using the word love here, but because we're actually simplifying how to be loving. This applies to every aspect of your work and your life. And I'm so delighted on who the person is that's going to be simplifying this down, because how could we find a better person than her? Her name is Danielle LaPorte. You've heard her here on the podcast before. You'll recognize her voice pretty immediately. She's the author of White Hot Truth, The Desire Map, The Firestarter Sessions, and now her most recent book, How to Be Loving, When Your Heart is Breaking Open and the World is Waking Up. So I'd like to welcome back to the Simplifiers podcast, Danielle LaPorte. Hey, Danielle.
This is our third conversation.
I believe so,
right?
Yes.
And in Canadian speak, this would be called a hat trick. So like it's a hockey move where it's like you score 3 goals in a game. It's called a hat trick. So this is our hat trick.
Yes. Yeah. That pretty much means that you're invited over for Thanksgiving as well here. So come on down.
Great, because I celebrate Canadian Thanksgiving and American Thanksgiving just for the potatoes. Yeah.
Brilliant. So I was looking at the last time we spoke, which was September 2019. And my goodness, the world has changed significantly. Externally, the world, bigger world, but then internally, your world, my world has changed significantly. Tell us that little story of how far you've come.
Did we talk about my simplification, my radical simplification of my life?
Not yet, but every time I heard about it, I was like, oh, music to my ears.
Well, in the last few years, I asked myself some pretty profound questions, which led to a lot of letting go. And so when all the shakeup of global situation was starting to happen, I really looked at my mortality and what I think is a vocation, and then some relationship stuff. And the result was like, I'm willing to let go of all these labels and these things I'm supposed to do to be a more spiritual person or closer to life or whatever. Just like, what if I just really lean into uncertainty and just be willing to let go? Because my feeling is that what's happening on the planet is this higher call for all of us to really simplify. And I mean that in the most metaphysical kind of simplification, like let go of your grievances, let go of some ambitions, let go of some stuff because we become so consumeristic. So my answer to the simplifying, to the questions like, what should I let go? Okay, I'm going to let go of all this stuff and see what happens was, I ended up doing a lot of physical stuff. I let go of a house. I let go of a car. I moved into an apartment. My son is now older. It's like he's my roommate now. So there was a big lightening the load of just things, and that feels so awesome. And I let go of the desire to be partnered. I'm just like, hey, my life is full of love. I'm great. And I don't want to walk into every cafe thinking, is he in here? Is he the one? I let go of that. And then I just thought, well, let's see if I'm really supposed to continue to do what I do career-wise. And I legit let it go. And all those things came back. So the desire to be partnered was like, okay, I'm going to keep my heart open. And a few weeks later, who showed up? Like the guy. And he's amazing. And then I came across this beautiful concept. I think you'll dig this, called swadharma. So your dharma is your path, your way. Like you're going to walk this lifetime. But swadharma is your unique abilities. Only you can do this. These are your gifts. And the idea is like, if you don't rock those particular gifts, those skills that are just you're actually doing a disservice to your soul and the collective you want to service.
Yes.
So I was just like, why would I not do what I'm doing? This is like really natural for me, seems to be helpful. And I decided I really want to be here on the planet, like extra. And that's really been a huge source of joy for me,
Mm.
where I was kind of, not that I ever struggled with being here or that I wanted to check out, although, that's crossed my mind. But just when I decided, like, I'm here for this, this is a new saying, in our, I'm here for it is the new, it's all good.
Yeah.
Right. Any kind of resentment or cynicism I had about the state of the world dissolved. And I'm just like, I'm going to be the joy in the dark night. Yeah.
And this is why I really truly feel, Dee, that this book is well timed. The world as a collective, as a whole, we've gone through a massive transformation and metamorphosis that isn't done yet. Like, I feel like we are the little caterpillar that's went into the cocoon and became a gooey mess for a really long time and stayed sheltered by ourselves, away from Buddy, with massive change. And now we're just starting to crack that cocoon open. And I think that this is why going back to basics, going back to what love is, means, does for us is critical. So how would you define love versus, say, joy or compassion?
That's a great question. Well, first of all, there's what love is, and then what is love in contrast to those other states of being. So, like, hey, everybody, lean in. Love is not a feeling. Love is not an emotion, because feelings and emotions, they come and they go. We're at the whim of them. You're high, you're low. We can get more metaphysical with this. Feelings actually come from the subconscious realm of ourselves. We can all grasp, or we all get on a really deep level. Love is always there. Love is unlimited. We know this as mothers. We know this as partners. We know this as daughters and sons. Like, you've always got love to give. It feels like, in some relationships, you knew each other before you knew each other. We know this. So love is a higher state of consciousness. More specifically, love is a virtue. And I think divine love is the mother virtue. And then she has these baby virtues called compassion, forgiving, generosity, radiance. Like, it all gets back to love. These are all different forms of love. And you could even look at this in terms of, like, creation as a whole. Like, we are all reflections of this bigger, almost impossible to imagine creative source. We are all rays of light from one light source. It's the same thing with love and all the sister virtues, you could say.
That ripples out. Yeah. And I mean, that's it. It took a global shakeup, like a pandemic, to, really wake us up to where we are. And I think, I certainly had one. I managed to move my entire family back across the planet as an aftermath to it. I am newly single and love it. And
right on.
My children
look amazing, by the way.
Thank you.
You look really glowy and light, and yeah.
Yeah. And my children's dad, we are co-parenting the heck out of it. And we are a working, healthy, thriving family unit in that. So, my story is just one of probably millions around the world of, gosh, this big thing happened in our world, and I'm choosing not to go back. I'm choosing to move forward. And this is where I think, how to be loving, really going back to basics, is like putting the framework into place to choose with intention a better way. And so I want to switch gears a little and actually read a little bit from your latest book, and then I want you to expand. So you say this on page 31. Healing is making the transition from an ego-centered to a heart-centered life. Healing is learning how to be loving. We become more loving as we wake up to the true nature of life, which is love itself, and being our unique expression of that universality. Healing is identifying as inclusive love. It's the journey from seeing ourselves as small and separate to recognizing that we each are holy and an essential part of the divine plan. Tell me more about what it means to lead a heart-centered life to you.
Two things. One, I think a heart-centered life is a reflective life. And it's about, you want to know the truth. You want to be loving. I mean, we're all aware we want to be loved, but we're just like, I want to do what it takes to be a loving person and to show up that way in all circumstances. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
And then there's all these tools for reflection. You get to build your own adventure. You can meditate, you can walk, you can have courageous conversations, you can eat clean because it helps your nervous system, et cetera, et cetera. We know the tools. And I mean, anybody listening to this knows the tools. But the other kind of pillar of this has everything to do with identification. So with what you were just reading, it's like, I think you just mentioned, healing is moving from identifying as a small, separate self.
Yeah.
And I think we're all here to wake up to, we're actually huge, vast beings. We are beings of energy, and we are all interconnected. And some of us just are kind of just, we're toying with that concept, with that consideration, like, what if we are all from the same source? What if that homeless person could be me? And then you get into kind of more psychological considerations where someone is, you're in conversation with somebody and they're just really pissing you off, or somebody's done something, and you take just a nanosecond of awareness and you go, wow, how am I actually just like that? How is that person reflecting me? That, I think, is a game changer for most of us.
Because you see your shadow self.
You see your shadow self. It's so, I think it's like so actually dignified in those moments to go, their bad behavior is a reflection of a part of me. And it just totally dissolves that moment. Like, you want to pounce, you want to super judge. And then what I see is a lot of people like, well, if I walk through life thinking everybody's a reflection of me, their genius behavior and their crap behavior, then how am I going to get out of this rut of always being in this self-critical conversation? If I'm seeing everybody else's crap, it's my own crap. But the thing is that you do, because that's a heart move. Like, that is actually, even when someone is behaving poorly and you go, wow, we're connected, that's an act of love. And that love, that movement of heartedness flowing through your system actually helps you be softer to yourself. When you start to see other person as you love you a little bit more. You start to get more gentle. Yeah. It's very simple.
And this is what, really, like, the light bulb started to go off. It's, you specifically said, you can think of it one of two things. I'm a small human inside of despair or whatever you're feeling, or I'm a spiritual being with despair passing through me. And that, I think, is so important. I'll put my hand up first, get so wrapped up into this bubble of whatever is happening. We get so self-absorbed into things, and we think that whatever we're facing is us. It's just passing through us, is what you're saying, right? Tell me more.
Well, let's talk about divorce. Whatever the reason the relationship is breaking up. I mean, just talk about relationship endings in general. This can work for family decisions and work. You can think, I am a bad person because of this situation. So you're believing actually that you are the negativity of the situation. That is not true. The situation is just created by your thoughts. Some of us could part ways joyfully, amicably, little bit of grief. We're kind of in peace with it. Some of us much more hostile. We feel shame about our own behavior. We don't love feeling the feelings of hostility. We're the dumper or the dumpy. Doesn't matter. What if you just had your sacred pause and just went, I'm not this situation. The situation is happening through my life and I can hold it. Like this is the easiest way. This is a poetic concept that I think really works. There's a reason that the Buddhists are often talking about the sky in terms of the teaching. The idea here is that, can you imagine that you are that vast? And I'm just going to put a fine point on it. Can you imagine that you are that loving, that you are that creative, that you wrap around the whole planet? It's hard to imagine. That's the point. It's meant to shake up these patterns that you are limited and you are wounded and all that stuff.
Right.
And when you get into that, you go, wow, okay, I can accommodate this. So it's not this glib spiritual bypassing of like, oh, divorce is just passing through my life. Mm-hmm. This is just a train wreck going through my emotional living room,
Everything happens for a reason, blah,
everything
blah,
happens
blah.
for a reason. Yeah. It's that this is happening and I have the capacity to handle it. I'm more than just this. I am also loving. I am also resilient. I also have a lot of friends. There's a lot of love in my life. There are solutions I haven't even seen yet that exist in my subconscious that I'm going to bring to the surface because I am vast. And then you approach this situation like you don't show up to this tense conversation as fear.
Yeah.
You show up to the tense conversation as love. You don't show up to rejection or having to leave as what someone said you were once upon a time. You show up as resilience, as radiance. And then you're going to speak very differently. You're going to negotiate very differently.
Yeah. And so what I hear in that is how, if you could zoom out of your life for a hot second and zoom out of that bubble of like, whatever is causing you strife, stress, fear, pain right now, and just realize that you are part of a much greater source. I think that for me, and I can only speak for myself, I have dealt with moments and seasons of my life where I felt anxiety, where I felt sad, hopeless, and things felt really hard. And in those moments, and I'm sure there's tons of people around the world listening to you and I right now, raise your hand if you've ever been there. Yeah, in those moments, it feels really dark. It's like this cloud that keeps you from seeing this bigger picture. And so I almost have to say, remember future self, Mary. There's no guarantee to avoid pain and suffering. It's going to come, right?
Yes.
That's a given. At some point, something is going to happen. But if you can leave little sprinkles for future Mary, who is in that dark cloud, who can't see the light, to be able to remember that she's part of source, she's part of love, she's not mired by fear and bogged down by you are this, which is always rooted in shame, isn't it? Identity points. Is that what you're talking about here?
Yeah, I am talking about remembering that you are capable, that you are so resourced. It's like you will heal. Not only will you heal, you will be stronger, more radiant, more genius, more connected. You're just remembering really your healing capacity. It's like, oh, I am love. I got this. This is not going to take me down. I have tools. I am connected to something larger. There's a universal mind. If I were just still, I could tap into it. It'll tell me the next right step. And when we do that, I think we get into the space of we really become our own parents. This is another popular phrase right now is reparenting.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you, one of the game changers for me has been, and this is around like some physical illness challenges. Basically, I try and love I try and love life and people like I love my son, which is as unconditional as I am currently capable of. But that's the intention, that's the aspiration. And so if I turn that on to myself, I have to love all parts of myself unconditionally. And that includes the stuff that is painful, like even physically painful. But this was a moment. I was feeling this physical flare up. It was this kind of chronic condition. And I was like, okay, I'm enlightened enough to not try and push the pain away. I'm going to be friendly with it, warm, friendly. I'm going to engage in a conversation. And then, you move into like, okay, pain, whatever kind of pain it is, you're showing up for a reason. What's your message? Okay. And then you move to the next level. All right. You come bearing a message. You got something to say. Okay. What do you need? And then you'll hear like, I need rest. I need a conversation. I need vitamin C, whatever it is. And this was it. I said to my pain, even if you come back tomorrow, I will be friendly. I just thought, like, what is the most unconditionally loving thing I could do right now? So it's like, even if my kid came to me in rough shape or, rebellious or whatever it is, I'd say, even if you don't change, I'm going to love you the rest of your life. You can still be a mess tomorrow and I will be here. And I said that to my own body. And it's helped immensely. Like, the chronic thing has since healed and you did lots of things for that. But I carry that spirit. Like, even if I mess up in a podcast or I'm a little this or I'm a little that, I'm still going to love myself tomorrow, even if I do it again. And I often think about how powerful this could be with addiction, where you don't want to take that substance tomorrow. You're trying to kick your habit today, but you got to love yourself no matter what. And that doesn't mean you're going to continue with the bad behavior. It just takes the charge out of the punishment if you did. And what that addiction is asking for anyway is unconditional love. Yeah.
Revolutionary, if you think about it. I mean, how many times we say these things to our children, we say these things to our coworkers, and we say the worst things to ourselves. Things that you would never vocalize to anybody out in the world. We say the worst things to ourselves because we either hold it up to the badge of, well, I have very high standards for myself and I am not hitting them or whatever. Revolutionary if we talk to ourselves with that kind of unconditional love and self-compassion. Changes everything.
But what you've touched on is this hook in the personal development space.
Yes.
Which is, we think we can talk shit to ourselves because it's going to make us better. Like, we can hype up and super motivate and overcome everything because that's making us more whole and more strong and more confident. And it is a really tricky trick of the ego. Yeah.
Yeah. It's toxic and it's not sustainable either. And what I just smiled from ear to ear when I was reading your book, and, you covered the part about like, hey, we're in a day and age where we no longer need to look to gurus and outside of ourselves for the answer. And, certainly people that have been listening to my podcast, certainly yours as well, we are more like running partners. We are facilitating conversations so that you can find the answers from within. Tell me more about your thoughts there.
I have a metaphor for this. I think, well, first of all, I have a philosophy, which is you can't really help anybody. I mean, I'm being a little cheeky about it, but really, really, like, you can't control anybody else. You can't control their thoughts. Someone has to be ready to hear what you say. Yeah. And I feel like when teachers show up, and the teacher could be like somebody on the bus, it could be somebody you teach, they're going to say just the right thing that's going to pluck your harp, or hit that key that you've got, that the piano board that you are. And you go, wow, that's so wise. it's actually not, it could be that the other person is wise, but it's not that they are more wise than you. It's just you bumped into each other at just the right time. I just get you at this nanosecond moment where your awareness is actually open. You're actually in your heart and you heard it. But the hearing it is all up to you.
Yeah.
So I encourage people to, instead of saying things like, she's so wise, or he's so amazing, or that answer, that methodology changed my life, it's, how about this? You give credit where credit is due. Lots of wisdom in the world, lots of incredible teachers. And you say, I was open to hearing it. It felt right at that time. And I picked up those 7 steps and I ran.
Yeah. And we just all as a collective agree from this point forward that we're going to drop the nonsense of, oh, I just wish I had X number of followers on social media, or I wish the Instagram looked as perfect as hers. And so I'm going to emulate her lifestyle, her beautiful children, her house, her things, her stuff, like
her filtered life.
Oof.
Yeah.
And like, we're all over it, aren't we? I mean, I'm over it. You're over it, right? Like, we're over it. And I feel like, again, we all just went through this massive thing. We're breaking out of the cocoon and we get to choose different, right?
Yeah, all that is, it's curated. I don't know, I want to have this conversation about that comparison in a more loving way than I have done in the past. Because like in the past, I'd say it's all curated. Everybody's kind of lying a little bit. I think the more inclusive way to put this is, I don't know anybody, whether they are super big celebrities or rolling in the dough or madly in love with perfectly, dressed children. I don't know anybody who gets out of here without challenges or anxiety or heartbreak.
Pain and suffering.
And I also think it's everybody's right to show what they want to show on social media. Like you are not morally obligated to talk about your bad day. Yeah. So, and this isn't social media, that dynamic of showing and telling, hiding and positioning and serving isn't any different than growing up in the 50s when everybody was hiding behind their new cars and their new Frigidaire. It's human nature. Hide the pain.
And, I feel like there's been a certain evolution in your work from the Firestarter days to the Desire Map. And I'm just curious, how have things evolved from the Desire Map days to what your belief systems are now?
Well, the question for me that is central is no longer, how do I want to feel? It's an important question. Everybody should be asking it. You should know, like ground zero is your feelings matter and you get to feel the way you want to feel more often, right? Like you have a divine right to that.
Yes.
I just don't think it's the end game anymore. And the revelation was dark nights, bad days, just not happy. And you know what? I still managed to be a good friend. Like most of my lessons, like for many of us, come through relationships. And I thought, I just helped somebody today when I was I was at the bottom of my own ladder, really struggling. And it didn't make me happier, didn't lighten me up that day, but it did have me feel more fulfilled, calm. I felt connected. Like I'd say this is really the hallmark of, where I've come to with a lot further to go is I just feel connected more to everything. Like it's little things, Mary. It's like I've become a plant person. I wasn't a plant person before. I used to think of myself as an environmentalist, but I really felt more like I was living on the land. Now I feel like I'm alive because of Mother Earth, my relationships, my car, my desk. This conversation is because of Mother Earth. All of the substance, all of it. So yeah, I just feel way more connected, which has me be a lot more gentle. Holy smokes, so much more gentle.
Gentle is the key word of this entire conversation. It is the through
Mm.
line and the pathway in my mind to love. I think we get so rigid, so hard, so moving fast, fast, fast that we forget gentleness is such an important element to it. And before I forget to mention this, I love that you love plants and that you're really getting connected with your beautiful green plants behind you. If you're watching the video version of it, it makes me very happy. And I have to tell you, last year, I for the first time took an interest in gardening and grew weeds. Not one thing beyond
I'm
weeds.
with you. Yeah,
And then this
failure.
year, no, this year, learning. This
Yeah.
year, I took seeds, absolute seeds, to sprouts, to eventually this beautiful baby watermelon that was, the size of like a very small deflated basketball. I only made one this year. I am so happy. And
I
there
get
is
it.
something about putting your hands in the ground to, just bring you back again to basics, but then also just a certain appreciation. The metaphor is not lost on me of when you take time to nurture a seed, believe in it, that it's going to become something big. And then the surprise and delight when it actually came to fruition and we got to eat it. There's power here.
This is about listening. This is what I've
Yes.
learned about gardening and house plants even. Like I used to have all this magical thinking around house plants.
Mm.
And I realized like that's not very good mothering, that like just going to work no matter where I put them. It's like, no, they need the right conditions. I'm going to take the time. It's also taught me a lot about it's been a reflection of project management because I'm just like, I want a lot of plants and they're just going to grow because, I'm going to send them light. And it's like, no, you just take on the plants that you can really give the proper conditions to.
Yeah. And I think the plants in our life, the gardening, whatever, the seeds you're nurturing are just a perfect visual representation for you to practice how to be loving, right? With a thing. And then also ultimately, let's take a bigger picture when we realize we're all one. The plants, you, me, all the things, right?
Yeah.
It's a natural expression of that love and self-compassion, what we give to it, right? Changes everything.
Yeah. And I want you to be happy. I think that's the basic. Like, your happiness is my happiness. I've found over the last few years, I hear myself saying just so often, I'm so happy for you. And I really feel it. Yeah.
And
so happy for you.
That's the reframe, really. When you find yourself kind of getting into that place of fear, that place of not enoughness, when you look at somebody else's social media or filtered life, you go, oh, that's the way we respond, right? That's loving instead.
And because I know some women listening are like, yeah, but we know she's not happy. And I think we do have the wisdom to see, like, look, someone's faking it. They can't be happy. Or that is a trajectory that is not going to end well. And then the wish is, may you be happy. I mean, this is one of the central prayers.
Yes.
In how to be loving. And we say it all the time in our heart-centered leadership program. Let me know when you want to end. Maybe we can close with that prayer.
Yes, I would love that. I feel like there's so much to this, and I really want to go further. I think about forgiving, and again, going back to the stories we tell ourselves that reroute our identity on, and we don't let go of. And you talk about in the book, like, healing's a nonlinear process. What does that mean when it comes to forgiveness of others and also forgiveness of yourself?
What I used to observe happening in our space, in the wellness space, is really accomplished women who consider themselves to be on the spiritual path. We did the workshops, we had the astrology reading, we're doing the things,
Yeah.
And then something would come up. Like there would be a breakup that would just gut them. It's like, I only dated this guy for like 3 weeks and I'm devastated. This makes no sense.
Yeah.
Or there'd be a run-in again with a family member, and and the woman would just say, like, but I did all this work. Why am I so triggered? And I think we have this image of healing that is really sequential and linear.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I went to this workshop, I healed that, I made progress. I've done X amount of therapy. I worked through those particular situations. It's sort of like we see ourselves like we're trains on a track. Issue, next topic, issue, next wound, etc.
Yeah.
It doesn't work that way. I think a more useful analogy is like, you are the solar system. And there are lots of things ripping through your environment and emerging and being born. It's like, and they all interconnect. So it's like, you see yourself as this planet or this sun in the center, and something else happens over here, some issue in a relationship. Okay, that affects the weather. And something else happens over here, and it's like a new opportunity that you realize you're strong enough to go for. We're organic. We're multidimensional. And the add-on for this, the bonus revelation for me with this is that life throws you the curveballs when you're ready, but you don't feel like you're ready. You're like, I didn't, but this is a loss. This is blindsiding. But actually, if you step back a bit and think, if this would have happened to me, or really it's happening for you, but if this event would have happened to me in my 20s, let's say, or 10 years ago,
yes,
it would have taken you down. You would not have had the capacity. It's happening now, and it's a challenge for sure. But guess what? You are more robust. You are more mature. You have some tools for dealing with trauma. You have probably, maybe, ideally, a stable place to live in. Life gives you the lesson when you actually can handle it, even though you think you can't handle it. You can.
Yeah, so true. And, I think for me alone, my 2022 trajectory, it's incredible. And I'll be honest, 2018 to 2021, would have liked to have skipped those years. Honestly, they were very hard. But we made it through, and we're stronger than ever. And we realize what, got a couple more tools for the tool belt. I couldn't have predicted all the beautiful things that have happened this year in my personal life, in my family's life, and beyond. Oh, it's just like future Mary, future Dee, future Kristen out there in the world. Please just hear our voice and know that, it does get better, right?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Well, I would add to that, like, you are capable because you are love. You are vast. You are resourced. You know what love is. You're going to figure out how to navigate, because that wisdom is encoded in you. It's in you.
Yeah. And you're fully supported right now. That is something that I have been saying to myself, like, for the last few years, and my 2022 trajectory personally has been rooted as well in gratitude journaling every single night. And I can say without a shadow of a doubt that, as cliche as it sounds, and people talk about it all the time, it fundamentally rewires your brain when you can look and end a day with a gratitude practice, 5 minutes of journaling. And, I can link up in the show notes the tools I use, and certainly, the things that you have, Dee, as well, like your journal that's accompanies the How to Be Loving book, helps people remember, bring back to source, bring back to love, bring back to that, instead of being rooted in fear. It's part of the framework, right?
Yeah. And, all the gratitude stuff, there's a lot of studies on this. This is not woo-woo. There is science that shows it affects your brain synapses, and you have different kind of results, better results. Yeah.
So I highly, highly recommend you guys take a look at this book when it comes out. It's actually in pre-order right now, and it's called How to Be Loving as Your Heart is Breaking Open and Our World is Waking Up. It releases on October 16th. Is that correct? Or October 11th?
October 11th.
October 11th. Aha. But the 16th, you are doing a very special live event. Tell us about that.
Yes. So here's the deal. On October 16th, it's a Sunday, I'm going to do Church with D and Friends. It's going to be online, obviously, global. And those friends are Leanne Rhymes is going to come and sing to us from her new album, God's Work, which is sublime. And beautiful chorus is probably going to chant for us. And then Reverend Michael Bernard Beckwith is going to open with a blessing. So you go grab your copies of How to Be Loving, wherever you like to support booksellers, and then come to our site. So you got to get back onto daniellelaporte.com/howtobeloving. Let us know you grabbed a copy. We give you your ticket for church. And then I'm also doing every Sunday for a year, sending out what I'm calling loving reminders, which are just like little 1 minute, 3 minute voice memos from me, just little exercises to help you get heart-centered that Sunday. Yeah.
I love it. And also, you guys are planting a tree for every person who pre-orders 2 copies. You get the admission to the church, and they'll plant a tree for you with Tree Sisters International. I mean, this is it. This is the full circle moment here. So thank you for doing that.
Thank you.
All the resources we talk about are in our show notes over at thesimplifierspodcast.com. And as we wrap up, Dee, I've got a couple of questions I'd like to ask you that I ask everyone that's on the podcast. So here goes. What's one book or blog that you're reading these days that's either inspiring you or poking holes and challenging your belief system right now?
I have been carrying a book called Emptiness Dancing for like 2 years. It's by Adyashanti, 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 who is this beautiful Zen teacher. His original name was like Steve. I think he's like Steve something, super simple last name. And he's just a really accessible teacher. Talks about loving it as is, really, is what he's talking about. Yeah.
Beautiful.
Emptiness dancing.
We'll link that up in the show notes for you guys if you want to check it out. Tell me, who's one person in your network, somebody that you know personally, you just feel is up to brilliant things? We could shine a spotlight on them, and who knows, maybe one day we'll have them on the podcast.
Do you know Zainab Selby?
No.
Yeah, you should know her. I'll spell it out for you. Her first name is Zainab, Z or Z, as we would say in Canada, Ainab. And her last name is Salbi, Salbi. And her full name is where you can follow her on Instagram. Zainab is the founder of Women for Women International. And she's also just founded a new organization called Daughters for Earth. And the Instagram handle for that is Daughters, plural, and just the number 4, Earth, Daughters for Earth. And she is up to stuff. She also has a great podcast and is just great conversations with women activists and justice seekers and spiritual teachers.
Beautiful. And talking about podcasts, if you love the Simplifiers podcast, you're most certainly going to love Danielle's podcast. It's called With Love, Danielle. And I love listening to it on my car journeys back and forth to work. It's like a little sermon, a little love note in my ear that kind of plants a seed for me to think and chew on throughout the day. So wherever you're listening to this podcast, you can find that one there. I believe gratitude and simplicity go hand in hand. Tell me, what are you grateful for today?
Oh, grateful for today, a really supportive partner, and working with women who burn through resentment. You know, like at the time of this recording, it's Mercury retrograde. Things are falling out of the sky on us. And there's not a lot of complaining. It's like that, just like, oh, that's intense. And then we're just like, okay, what are we going to do? And there is no place for resentment or excessive complaint when you have a bigger vision. And it is really cool to work with chicks who know that. Yeah.
Grace, add a little bit more grace.
And grace. Yeah.
Add a little more to it as well. So let's end with the prayer. I like to imagine that there is one person somewhere out in the world listening to you and I right now, and she is feeling everything except love for herself, for others, and really deeply in that space of dark cloud and fear, let's say a prayer.
The Medabhavana prayer has 3 stanzas. We'll just do the short version. So the full version is you would offer this prayer to yourself. May I be happy. And then you would offer it to somebody else or a group of people. May you be happy. And then the last refrain is you offer it to all of us. May we be happy. So we'll do this last refrain. And it includes everybody, everywhere, ever, all of sentient life. And then for me, I throw animals into that. So just all life. So wherever you are, if you can close your eyes, that's great. If you're in motion, that's great too. And you just focus all prayers, ideally, on your heart center. You become aware of that kind of warm, friendly, golden energy. And you can repeat out loud with me, or you can go silently to yourself, or you can just come along for the ride. May we be happy. May we be healthy. May we be free of suffering. May we be free of mental anxiety. May we live in peace. May our lives be blessed with ease. We give thanks, full faith, so be it, so it is. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Big love to you.
Big love to you, Mary. I'm so happy for you.
Thank you. And I am so happy for you.
Mm.